And we're live. Hello and welcome to Hex Therapy Live. I'm your host, Matty ALLin, and tonight we're going to be talking about how Bitcoin billionaires have delayed gratification. This is going to give us a better understanding of how we ourselves, who are not yet billionaires, are able to save for our future, to pay our future selves, and to enjoy all of the other benefits that come along with delaying gratification. So with that being said, I know y'all are loving the new overlays and graphics and everything. I know I am too. And let's go ahead and get started with some Hex Therapy Live. I appreciate you all so much. And if you would do me the favor of hitting the like and subscribe button now, that would be much appreciated as well. Now, who knows what kind of rants and other topics we're going to get to today in Hex Therapy Live other than Bitcoin billionaires delaying gratification. Richard Hart on the thumbnail. I'm going to analyze his portfolio. Although he won't be on the show, I'm going to start off with that clickbait to give you all what you came for. And then, who knows, we might get into some sudden wealth syndrome into the comments before we hear from crypto knights of the round table that come on in about an hour and a half. So again, thank you for being here. So let's try to, I think, imagine what it's like to be Richard Hart and, you know, to not only have all the hate and all the disrespect that comes with being a public figure, but also to try to understand even what his portfolio psychology is like, right? We have reason to believe that Richard was involved with Bitcoin back when he was mining full 50 Bitcoin blocks for free with his gaming computer. And when Bitcoin was selling for in between $1 and $30 on the open market, right? And there have been a lot of other OG Bitcoiners who can confirm that Richard was around back in the very early days, that he attended some of the first meetups that they had in Bitcoin. Apparently they had secret code words to get into, you know, different bars and that sort of thing, kind of like we did at the first Hex meetup at the Mob Museum in Vegas. But let's just do a little math here and see. So 50 Bitcoins, mining those for free in each block. Let's see how much a block of 50 Bitcoins would be worth today. Well, that'd be 50 times $44,000, right? So the first thing we need to do is just establish like the level of wealth that Richard could have before we can speculate on his portfolio psychology and strong hands and how we ourselves can get on his level of delaying gratification. So a 50 Bitcoin block today at Bitcoin being $44,000 comes out to about $2.2 million. And those 50 Bitcoin blocks were being mined about every 10 minutes, right? That's what we know about Bitcoin. And so it's possible that Richard could have been getting, you know, multiple $2.2 million blocks per day, right? Because there are a lot of 10-minute segments in each day. So I guess in order to get up to $1 billion, right? Because that's kind of what I'm assuming he has. It's in the billions. So if I get my calculator out here and I do 1 million, 1, 2, 3, that's $1 billion. Oh, I should be using Wolfram Alpha. There's some really cool stuff that they have there. Wolfram Alpha. I'm going to do a screen share so people can check my work. And so you can know about this cool tool. So on Wolfram Alpha, it allows you to do calculations that are based on kind of like business logic or just words. So I can say 1 billion, right? So we can say 2.2 million divided by 1 billion. And so that's going to tell us I think it's 1 billion divided by 2.2 million. They never do math on a live stream, but we're doing it anyway. So 1 billion divided by 2.2 million, that's going to be 454. So that would be 454 10-minute blocks that Richard would have had to mine in order to mine $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, right? So that's kind of interesting. That's helping us to establish kind of what the level was back then, right? But we also know that Bitcoin was selling between $1 and $1 and $30 when Richard was buying in so much that he made the $30 top, right? So let's see if we have 1 billion divided by $44,000 per Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins did he need in order to be a billionaire now? Well, that's about 23,000 Bitcoin, right? So Richard, if he had bought 23,000 Bitcoin at $1, right, that would have been $23,000 to be a billionaire now, right? That sounds pretty crazy, but that's what happens when you get a 44,000x from $1 to $44,000, right? Hex is doing a pretty good job being up about 4,000x in a year and a half. You know, Bitcoin has had about 10 or 11 years to do this. So, you know, people say they want to see the receipts. Well, here they are, right? This is what it would take. And then if we're talking about, you know, if he bought $1 billion worth of Bitcoin for $30 each, then if we did 23,000 times 30, we would see that if Richard had put in $690,000 at the $30 top, if he had held his Bitcoin, that would have now been worth $1 billion. So yeah. What are we seeing? We're seeing that it's totally possible if he retired a millionaire, a multimillionaire, before Bitcoin even came out, and we know that he was active in the community of Bitcoin when it was in between $1 and $30, it's reasonable to assume that if he made the $30 top, he could have bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin at the time, right? Which would be worth over $1 billion now. So, I mean, more evidence, right, is that he's able to call the top and the bottom to the day. If he's not a whale that's maybe selling a little bit of Bitcoin at the top because he knows what to look for and he knows the market psychology, well, how would he be so accurate, right? I mean, he doesn't say that, but we're reading between the lines because this is a psychology show, and because in order for us to understand the thing that Richard made and how it can help us, right, as a self-help tool, with Hex and Pulse being tools that people we're already seeing are using to delay gratification. And being able to delay gratification, it turns out, is such an important skill that it permeates many of the behavior change principles that are done in real therapy, right? With that being said, I want to remind you, for all you regulators out there that are watching the show, welcome. Buy some Hex, learn how it works, and then quit your job because you'll be rich. You can retire early, and but at the same time, we're not going to be doing anything out of sorts. That's why this comes with a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. You should always speak to a qualified professional for that kind of stuff. It's not therapy or medical advice. Free speech. Just having a little free speech discussion with all these wonderful people out here. So, David, you're saying Richard is Satoshi. I thought that for a little while because Richard is so smart and because Satoshi is so anonymous. Richard has also said that he's not Satoshi a number of times. And when I typed in the comments once, like, is this other guy Satoshi? Richard had like a really strong reaction and started saying all these people that it could have been, except Paul LaRue. So I'm not really sure on this one. But I think it's a good question to ask, right? Because that'd be really funny if Richard just pulled out his Satoshi wallet and started signing some like tweets or something. Who knows? Why don't we get him over 100K subs on Twitter and we can find out? Yes. Okay. So I think we've established like the probability or possibility that Richard is a Bitcoin billionaire, right? So get that out of the way. We also know that Richard had become critical of Bitcoin, and that's why he created Hex. And Hex being something that is a tool that actually allows people to delay gratification, I would like to speak to that for a little while here, because I really think that this is something that is so new for the world that it's going to break a lot of people's brains before it fixes their brains. And it'll do both. And it will permeate the ether, if you will, but not Ethereum. So what am I talking about? What I'm saying is that Hex, to me, it's like an otherworldly like substance, right? Because it literally allows you to pay your future self, which, if you think about, doesn't really exist in any other financial market, because financial markets are made of middlemen. And before Bitcoin was invented, there was no way to create trust and security without middlemen. And so this is the huge innovation that is, I think, really going to change the way that people think, not only about money, but about their monetary environment, about their freedom, about their productivity, about the abundance versus scarcity questions in the world, right? For hundreds of thousands of years, humans have operated from a place of scarcity. Humans have had to be survivalists first. And if you didn't survive, then you wouldn't pass on your genes as much. And so it's not a surprise that we're all part assholes, right? But at the same time, it's also surprising that there's a lot of good out there. Or maybe it's not surprising, right? Because that's another part of the human ethos that I think is really important. It kind of like sticks together with the game theory of being alive, right? The game theory of survival. And then moving into a post-survival world that is a world of abundance. I think that is going to be a major transition for a lot of people. And people are going to distrust things before they trust them unless we give them another way, right? And so, for example, what Richard did when he was launching Hex is he started presenting logical arguments as to why Bitcoin and Ethereum could be improved, and suggesting reasons why they weren't being improved, suggesting ways that they could be improved that he could implement himself, right? And what that did, I think, at the end of the day, where he really got traction was by talking about self-help. And so there came to be an audience that eventually would be known as Hexicans, but at first they were just Richard Hart followers. And these are the people who quit gambling, quit video gaming, right? Quit drinking and smoking, right? Got their lives in order, learned from the self-help materials that Richard published on his channel. Also from the 1,700-page book that Richard wrote, a self-help book called Sci-Vive, which is the intersection of science and survival. Again, right? Like being in a post-survivalist world, it's going to feel strange to a lot of people. And so that's kind of the therapy topic that we're getting into when we're talking about delayed gratification. Because if we're talking about being able to delay gratification without middlemen, right? This is the critical distinction. To have a trustless system that is in some ways permissionless, that in some ways is censorship resistant, that in some ways is incentivizing community and mental health. These are emergent properties. These are things that are starting to exist for the first time because not only has the first instance of digital scarcity been invented, right? Where it comes to Bitcoin being a decentralized, digitally scarce asset. Before that, you could just copy everything. You could get on Napster and copy things. Anything that was digital could be hacked until the decentralized ledger came about. Well, now we can check the receipts. And the receipts say that there are a lot of middlemen and that there are a lot of admin keys still around. Look at the $691 million hack that happened earlier this week. Oops, that is not what crypto was invented for. Look at the majority of Bitcoin volume trading on centralized exchanges. Oops, that's not what crypto was invented for. Look at people obsessing about trading the markets. Look at all the human time and energy that's going into negative sum games. That means that when you take a leveraged position on the price of Bitcoin going up or down, somebody else is taking the other side of that bet, and one of you is going to lose. And the person who loses, they're going to feel really bad about themselves, and there's no positive that's coming from this. It's not like when people make something new in the world, when people produce a good or a service, that's a positive sum game because the parts can eventually be worth more than the inputs, right? The outputs can become worth more than the inputs. Whereas with trading, with getting wrecked and buying into fake narratives that are spun up by the people who are running the exchanges anyway, they're the ones getting rich. In crypto, it's founders and middlemen and people who hold and delay gratification. Those are the only people who get rich. Why doesn't everybody tell you that? Well, maybe because they're on the take. Maybe because their advertisers and sponsors are the ones who are deciding who wins and loses in this, free-for-all YouTube I'm not going to say conspiracy. Free market. Listen, the free market is allowed to scam you as much as it wants, right? Until somebody comes along being honest. And because all humans are coming from such a scarce and corrupt environment where the money is so sick that you can't even save it without its value and purchasing power decreasing. You can't even go to a bank. I went to a bank today and they tried to tell me about a money market account. I laughed in their faces. Oh, it was so good. But I like my bankers because they're like really friendly. So it's cool. Don't worry. It's not anything serious. But my point is, it's not the people in the system who are bad. Even if we take the billionaires themselves. Give me the most corrupt billionaires you can find. I don't think it's just them who are to blame. It is the system that has been created. When the monetary system gets sick, right, then that affects humans' behaviors. And any actor trying to survive in a rigged and corrupt and sick system, that actor is being incentivized to become a bad actor. And So that's the difference between Hex and the rest of the crypto ecosystem. What other community do you see advertising so much? Do you see buying billboard ads, paying celebrities for shout outs? Shout out to hexcameo.com. I will be re-airing some of that footage because of the extremely low view count my first Hex project ever got. That's before I showed my face. And so I'm really excited to refresh and reload that content for everybody, because we got a lot of celebrities that have talked about Hex and mental health and delaying gratification, and not a lot of people have seen that content, right? And so what other communities do you see Hex flexing, right? What other communities do you see? They had a big payday, the price dumped, and everybody was happy, celebrating on a 24-hour live stream. What other communities do you see having yearly conferences, continuous meetups, having, 80 YouTubers that all are starting to get over 1,000 subscribers? If you guys are not on HexStreamers.com, go check it out. Find all the Hex streamers, give them a follow, right? Give them a super chat. Tell them how much you appreciate the work that they're doing, right? We've got some really talented and awesome people that are in our community, and it's overwhelming. I mean, but this is part of the proof of not a scam, the proof of delaying gratification. It's an emergent property of being in a healthy monetary environment. And some Hexicans might already realize it. Others, they might want to hear all these different psychological takes and then, have that light bulb moment, that aha moment go off. Especially if you've been taking your Omega 369, like I recommend. Once I started taking that, I started thinking more clearly, and you're going to hear me rant on it just about every stream. And you're going to see in the comments the people who have tried it, just taking, this essential nutrient for your body, right? $5 a month from the grocery store. It made a noticeable effect in our ability to think clearly, because I come from a background in neuroscience and psychology. And that's what it takes. That's a raw material that your brain needs in order to insulate the electrical wires in your prefrontal cortex. And you're going to hear me talk about that a lot because it's so important. Because delaying gratification, it's not just a mental and it's not just a physical thing. But you may or may not have noticed, ever since I've been in Hex, I've been getting healthier and healthier. And part of that is just me being in a good place. And part of it is being in this awesome community and being a part of the new healthy money that the world has been needing since the beginning of money. Money is a socially enforced construct. Money is a belief system where the people who have the greatest stakes are incentivized to protect the number of believers and to expand the number of believers. It comes down to the psychological operation that it turns out, hey, being able to create money, that's a very profitable thing. And so it's really hard to compete in that space. Now we live in a digital world, a world where despite all the gatekeeping that's been taken over in crypto, most people don't know about that, right? They're going to learn. And we're going to teach them, right? That's the plan here. And so I think that, at least for me, when I take care of myself and when I see how wonderful this community is, it makes me feel like all my goals and values, they're really getting aligned, right? I have been exercising regularly. I have a really awesome six-pack. I am the exact weight I want to be. That's because I've been using the principles that I used as a therapist to help people. that comes down to a lot of little things. And when people ask me how to change their behavior, I'll tell them straight up, right? For some people, making changes all at once, that's what works. But for most people, it's the low motivation strategies that we don't think of that can make the biggest difference. So what does it mean to take a low motivation strategy? And this all relates to delayed gratification, because without being in your best physical and mental state, and without wanting, you don't even have to want to be the best version of yourself, because that's what I discovered working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of court-ordered individuals. They didn't want to change. So how did they change? Well, I showed them the receipts, right? And I explained as a real person, heart to heart, person to person, what it takes, right? And that's an empirical question. I don't usually recommend things that you can't tell whether it worked or not. A multivitamin, that's great. If you're depressed, there's a 10% chance it's a vitamin B12 deficiency, and a multivitamin, it could solve your problems, right? But for most people, taking a multivitamin, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to change your life like taking omega 369 is going to change your life. It's going to be noticeable. Not like a Philips deep sleep headband is going to change your life and be noticeable. You will wake up in the morning having worn a device that increases your deep sleep. You're going to wake up and know that you wore it because you slept so well. It's noticeable, right? So that's having facts and not just feelings, having tools that really work. That's all it takes. All it takes to establish credibility in motivating somebody is to have one thing change their life. If you can change somebody's life with one thing, they will listen to you about all the other tools that you've figured out. And the best way to figure out what tools work is by having a motivated group of people who are willing to try the things that make the most sense, right? And I didn't start recommending omega 369 because I was making a profit from it or because I saw a commercial on TV. It's because I understood the cellular biology, the glial cells, which are part of the neuroglial system, which means nerve glue that holds the neurons in place in the brain. And the neurons were always thought to be running the show in the brain, just because they generate electrical impulses. Well, guess what? Neurons aren't the only thing that cause your brain to function in a way that brings about your mental state, right? It's those neuroglia, well, it's neuroglia or neuroglial, however you want to say it. These are the support cells in the brain, and that's what gives the brain its structure, nutrition, functioning. I took a whole graduate course called, the title of the course was Neuroglia, Nurses or Assassins, ? And that was a pretty badass class, especially for a clinical person such as myself to take. I was the only person who actually works with people and not rats who took that class. And so I got to see how we translate discoveries from the neurocellular level to the behavior level and back, right? And so realizing these, psychoactive principles, these, it gets past the BS, right? When you can see the results, when the results are so clear. And then it frustrates me when I have to work in like a healthcare system, right? That does not allow me to reach as many people as I'm reaching right now in this moment. Right now in this moment, I am talking to more people. There's over 100 people watching right now. There have been 2,000 people watching in total each week on the replays. There have been 7,000 people watching Quant Gang, which is a Hex and Pulse specific show. Like, in order to see that many clients, to see that many people, would take a year in a clinic. And how much would it cost the healthcare system? Tens of thousands of dollars, maybe $100,000, right? And this is free. This is coming to you through the airwaves. And so I mean, with that being said, at the end of the day, we are in a unique time in history. And whenever I get discouraged about how the system is working, about why haven't other people woken up yet? Shout out to Wales Only. Wales has been speaking a lot of truth to power, has been saying a lot of things that are on a lot of people's minds. And, you know, that can be a really big burden to bear, right? It can also be very vindicating and empowering, not only for yourself as a broadcaster, but also for everybody who's listening to you. You can change a lot of lives by putting your finger on what it is that's bothering people, on what it is that's pissing people off, on the things that people see that aren't right, and they don't have anybody to tell because it doesn't seem like anybody cares, right? And so I know you're helping a lot of people, and those people know that you're helping them as well, right? The hope, and one of the ideas that I've come up with recently, I'm sure other people have had it too, it occurred to me that maybe because we live in a time in history when we've only been able to operate from scarcity until now, until the technological revolution, right? That it might just be that nobody has been privileged enough to really have the resources to be able to speak out and to be able to even think clearly. If we're talking about people didn't even have running water and lights 1,000 years ago, people didn't even have safe food, they were not in a position to question authority, to think higher level thoughts, and to be sure of themselves and to find like-minded individuals in order to really make the world a better place in the way that I talk about it, not the way that these leveraged exchange sponsored Bitcoin and Ethereum and trading shows talk about making the world a better place. The way that they talk about making the world a better place is, let's tell a story that gets people to start gambling with their life savings. And then at the end of the day, what's going to happen? Those people, they're going to have a sunk cost. That's a psychological term. That means that once people lose money, sometimes they're incentivized to keep losing money because they're chasing bad decisions. And because to them, think about how a casino works from a psychological perspective. Let's take a macro casino view of things, right? Well, in a casino, if you design a casino, you want people to win when they come in. You want people to win because that is going to keep them coming back. In fact, if you ask me, there is no way to win in a casino because the house always wins. And the odds are tilted close enough to not against you 100% so that you do have some wins, because you will get addicted to the feeling of easy money, and then you will be incentivized. Your behavior will be shaped and conditioned so that no matter how much money you win gambling, you will give it all back and more. And you will work just as hard as any rat with a nice cocaine lover and no one to love and nothing to do, right? This is what it means. Like, this is how much of an impact it makes when our environments help shape our behavior, right? And there are lots of examples of this. I think one example, because I've worked with a lot of individuals who suffered from addiction, and addiction, out of all the medical issues, right, is one thing that's particularly blamed on the individual, right? And so the legal system, in doing its best and doing its worst, right, blames the individual and punishes the individual. When what we know, as anyone who's a professional in the space, who's highly effective, or anybody critically thinking about the problem of addiction, people such as myself who have had experiences changing people's lives by helping them overcome the blame and by helping them change their environment. That's how I know that it's not the individual's fault, because if it was their fault, then changing their environment wouldn't change their behavior so consistently and effectively. And so much over time, right? It's really incredible to see the reality of how things work by having lived experiences and by taking a critical thinking and experimental approach to living your life. If something isn't working for you, a really good question to ask is, what's up with that? Where does that come from? I don't ask why. Why can facilitate a lot of anxiety and a lot of unproductive energy, but where did that come from? That's a question where you can trace it at least to the things that have happened in your life that you remember. Instead of why is asking, it could be anything. It could be things that have happened to you, or things that you're imagining, things that you're worried about in the future or the past, right? It can be very confusing to go down the rabbit hole of why compared to where did that come from. And when guilt, so one thing about emotions that can trip people up is that usually when people feel really bad emotions about themselves, then they use anger to like self-regulate that. And so what we see is like people who feel guilty about something will get angry at the people around them. Right? And that's maybe like not the wrong functionally, or not the wrong functional thing to do, because the people that we surround ourselves with are part of our environment. But what I'm saying is, if you change the environment without changing the person's guilt, then they might not feel like they deserve it, and they might not stick with it. They might not actually change their behavior. So there is part that's internalized and part that's externalized about insert behavior that you want to change, right? Feeling depressed, anxious, tired, lonely, depressed, hungry, angry, right? And all the subsets of those emotions. A lot of times, people don't even know the specific emotion that they're feeling. And so they use a more general category of emotion. So and again, we could tie this all back to delaying gratification, because delaying gratification is a prefrontal cortex activity. It's inhibitory. You're telling yourself no, you're waiting, you're avoiding impulsivity. You're using response inhibition, right? I did my master's thesis on how to change people's impulsive behavior. It's good stuff, right? And so having negative emotions is going to cloud your thinking. It's going to impair your judgment. It's going to shut down your prefrontal cortex. When people get angry and see red, it's because there are wires going from the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that generates anger, and the wires go to the prefrontal cortex and dump inhibitory chemicals all over the part of your brain that's supposed to be thinking clearly. And it's also a race to the finish, because the people who are able to regulate their anger have wires going back to the amygdala to shut that off. So the amygdala is trying to shut off your emotional. The amygdala is trying to shut off your prefrontal cortex, which is your clear thinking, rational, problem solving, right? And then your prefrontal cortex is trying to shut off your amygdala, which is the anger generating center. If you're angry, if you feel guilty that it's your fault that you're living in an unhealthy monetary system, that is not true. That you're succumbing to addiction in a world where saving is punished by inflation, humans will have bad behavior as the default. It will take way more energy to be the best version of yourself than if you were living in a healthy money environment, in an environment that was not trying to steal from you, steal your time, steal your freedom, steal, insert whatever, right? Your health, your wealth, your mental health, right? These are things that can be changed because new tools are emerging like Hex that allows people, such as myself, to buy our financial freedom. And believe it or not, like, we're here, we're not going anywhere. And what I'm saying is you will not believe it until you experience time locking your money and saying, see you in 15.2 years, right? I can't emphasize this enough. I went on stream with Adam Stokes. I've seen lots of other like popular crypto streamers. They've spent hours talking to people such as myself, Tony, T-Money from freedomtv.info, Discourse Syndicate, everybody, Richard, hours and hours spending with these people. They haven't put $50 into Hex and tried it out. They haven't tried time locking their money. If they had, that $50 would have turned into a 4,000x probably for some of them, maybe only a 20x for others. But let's go ahead and do the math. Oh, wow, that's $200,000. That's $200,000. The psychology of the casino that is the current financial system, it has every reason to lie to you. It has every reason to cause you fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It has every reason to keep you working for pennies on the dollar. It has every reason to keep telling you you're working for dollars on dollars on dollars. It is designed to extract wealth from you. It is designed to break you down, right? And there is nobody to blame because blame is the wrong approach. Instead of telling the world really what they shouldn't be doing, I think we have a much more positive story here. And I think people in general, they get inspired by hope. They get inspired by possibility. And they get inspired by seeing results, right? And so that's the parallel that I'm going to draw between all of the other tools that I've popularized with people here, you know, in the real world, right? Like in my clinical days, working 11,000 hours with individuals who make less than $15,000 a year. I used what works. And I used Omega 369. I used other behavior change principles, like used low motivation strategies. And what I really need to do, I need to make shorter content. I need to get in the business of making 5-10 minute videos with those therapy speeches in them. I love the live format. It's actually a lot easier. And so maybe it's going to be a combination of like maybe having, you know, some bullet points or some topics and hitting them live. I'm not sure. And then clipping that, or just doing pre-recorded content. But there are a lot of tools out there. The tool that I want you to focus on right now is Omega 369, Philips Deep Sleep Headband, and Hex. Because what Hex is doing, it's doing something that I think we're still starting to appreciate. I think that there are only 80,000 people in Hex. A lot of you are new, welcome. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the future of finance where money is healthy again and where people are able to give for free because there's so much abundance, right? There's so much abundance right now. Like I've been there, right? Like I'm using all my time, a lot of my time. I'm using a lot of my Hex gains like to give back to the community. And let me tell you, if you haven't tried that, it feels amazing. Sudden wealth syndrome, it starts to shrink whenever you have purpose, whenever you stay grounded. I'm not buying fancy houses. I'm not buying fancy cars. I might buy a fancy computer, but that's only because I'm willing to sacrifice and be altruistic for this community. Because the more time that I can spend like not waiting an hour and a half for a video to export, right? That's more time and really more motivation and energy I could have. Because like sometimes I'm not feeling it, like working on a video that I have to edit, spending hours and hours and hours and hours to generate 1 hour of video when, it's not going to export very quickly. So I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to show my receipts. I spent $2,000 or $3,000 on Hex cameos. And I knew Hex was going to keep doing well. That money was already in Uniswap, ready to go into Hex. Those two accounts right there, they would be worth now. I mean, it was, you could get 1 million Hex then for each Uniswap airdrop that you got. I put like 1.5 or 2 airdrops into Hex cameos in order to like popularize Hex. For the hundreds of people that watched, like less than 1,000 people watched, right? That was my contribution. I knew what I was doing. I knew I was giving away diamonds to help others, right? And it was free money to me. So I really don't mind it. I'm not here like for people to thank me. I'm not here, like what I'm here to do is to show you my playbook for not getting rich and feeling like shit. But those of you out there, the 220 of you who've become millionaires and the thousands of you who are about to become millionaires from Hex, you're about to see what I'm talking about when I say sudden wealth syndrome. So you better be prepared and you better show up to therapy if this is something you want to be prepared for. Because guess what? Once you start getting the things that you've always wanted, you're going to find out real quick how much you really wanted them and how much that wears off, how much it gets old, right? To just have stuff, to not have the struggle. Hey, struggling is shitty, right? But like not having even that, not having direction in life, feeling lost, feeling disconnected from every other human who's running the rat race, these really sound like privileged problems. But again, we are making a transition from a world of scarcity to a world of abundance. And what that means is that we're going to have to get used to being rich and not hating ourselves, not wasting our energy feeling guilty and ashamed because we're not rich or because we're rich, because we're addicted or we're not addicted. How many times have I seen people blaming themselves for their addiction or for something that was part of their monetary or social environment? They blame themselves for that and then nothing changes. The reality is that so much good can be done by understanding that it's the systems and the environments that we live in that shape our behavior. And so being a part of a healthy community and helping to spread that message, get the word out about Hex Therapy Live. You can see how much energy I'm putting into this. You can see how much I care. Look at the screen, right? Quant Gang, 5 hours a week. Love it. That doesn't feel like work. tshare.app. Like sometimes just hanging out with future us, like he's the dev, right? Like I'm somebody who thinks of things and asks him whether they can be done or not, right? Like sometimes we're just hanging out, having fun conversations. Sometimes we're building, the next great staker app, the next great go.hex.com. Doesn't feel like work, right? But it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy. It's meaningful work. PulseHex.com. This is our conference. I need to speak on this briefly because I can't do it by myself and I need your help. I need those of you out there who are Hex millionaires, and we already had 220 of you answer the survey on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, go to Maddie ALLin, and go to the community tab. You can answer all those questions. They're fun. There are a lot of fun questions to answer. One of them says, has Hex made you a millionaire or a billionaire? And 220 people said yes. I would urge you to consider to come to the conference. Not all of the details have been created yet, but a lot of that is coming. And without people buying tickets ahead of time, like now, like early, without you buying your $369 ticket, it's going to make it harder and harder for us to put the money down to make the event happen. And I would hate to like have to refund everybody. I'm willing to do it. It's no problem. But like, I really want a legit scientific conference to happen. And I think this community, I think it deserves like the energy that came out of our first mass Hex meetup, that came out of our first online conference. So go to pulsehex.com, go to pulsehex.eventbrite.com and get a ticket early. I know it's early. I know I'm asking a lot. The more we can sell out of these tickets, 1,369 tickets, the faster we can sell those out, the better the event's going to be, because we're going to have more time to spend the money carefully and to get the best deal possible and to reserve the space ahead of time. And you guys can read, like I've written for the first Hex meetup, like it's kind of a sacrifice, because if you bought tickets to the first Bitcoin conference, it would have been a better deal to buy Bitcoin. So I don't want to, like, people who are new, I don't want to pressure you into doing something you're not going to like. There's a lot of people out there. There are in between 2,000 and 3,000 people who've become Hex millionaires. Get your tickets now if you can. Like, if you want, there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff that happens. We're putting a lot of energy into it, and so here's the event info. So you can buy tickets at Eventbrite. You can also go to t.me/pulsehexcom, and that's where we have for the meetup. That's where we have the Telegram group. So I'm gonna put these links in the live chat so that people can check it out. And then you're going to see that continuing to evolve. We've got a lot of collaboration and a lot of cross promotion that's going to come out of this. A-Bit and Patrick are getting like $100,000 cars they're going to drive all around the country to have 30 meetups before the Hex conference. It's the amount of energy and synergy that's happening is actually really kind of unreal, unless you realize what we're dealing with. And that's why one of the surveys that I did this week on YouTube that people can still respond to, there's the survey questions that, like, I know are going to get tons of people answering, which I love. And then there's ones that are just like, I'm actually really curious about what this answer is going to be. Okay, I gotta share my screen again. Okay, so the question we had this week on the community tab says, if you're making mad gains in Hex, are you more motivated to engage with the Hex community or less motivated to engage with the Hex community. Look at that engagement. My channel having 3,000 subscribers or something, maybe more. Hit the like and subscribe button. Having 500 people answering this survey. There was almost 1,000. There's 918 answering this about whether you're in profit or loss with your Hex bags. That was also this week, right? 88% of people are in profit. Those are the non-traders or the traders that have been converted to becoming savers, becoming healthy in a new healthy monetary environment. Look at all these people. What do you think is going to happen when 91% of people who keep doing well in Hex get involved with the community? When people buy their freedom and have the time to take care of themselves and the people they love, that's really, I think, going to create a level of engagement and community that the world has never seen before. And people are going to call it a scam. They're going to call it a cult. They're going to say everything they want until they try Hex and start learning the reality, right? Until they experience the reality. What else? Okay, that was a silly one. Has Hex made you a millionaire or a billionaire yet in USD, even on paper? 888 people responded. 25% said, yes, I'm a Hex millionaire. That's outstanding. And the number was 33% before the channel started to get a lot more subscribers. I mean, we've had 500 new subscribers in the past couple weeks, I would say. So welcome to all of you who are new. And thank you, Satoshi, for suggesting that people open in a new window. That link, which will take you to these survey questions, right? And are you staking longer than average? We have a 1/3, 2/3 split there. We see a lot in psychology and different analytics. But you know, that makes sense though, right? Because people staking longer are going to be more engaged with the community. They're going to be more likely to watch the live streams, to answer the survey questions, right? They're going to be paying attention. Has Hex increased your financial independence? Wow. Do you own at least one T-share? 90%. That's amazing. Do you want to come to the next Hex meetup? Very cool. Have you made a Quattro Cinco stake? 76% said yes. 24% said not yet. You guys can tell. You guys can tell I'm excited to be a community organizer. And I am so happy that you're a part of this community. Let's see. I was going over like the different projects I'm involved in. Then of course HexTherapy.live and ALLin. I'm trying to put together something with like doing clips, because I think the more clips we have, the better. It's hard to zero in on the most important parts of a 1-hour rant, let alone a 5-hour show that happens every week. And I think YouTube is like rolling out a clip feature that could be really powerful as well, so that people at home can easily clip parts of the show. And I would love to get the audience involved in that as well. And so there are, as you can tell, there are a lot of things that I'm working on that I'm excited about that wouldn't be possible without you. And Melv Tony here is telling us that Hex appears to be pumping all the way back to 14 cents. That is amazing. And for those of you keeping track, people in the chat about a month ago did peer pressure me into saying that I will get cornrows in my hair live when Hex hits 25 cents. So, and that's like just the same as Richard talking about lighting the candles at $1 or at 10 cents or whatever, right? Like, I don't want to see a scam wick. If you're a whale and you want to see me cornrow my hair live, we're going to need more than just a little wick. We're going to need some sustained action. At the end of the day, are you going to be better off? Are you going to be more or less happy with yourself in 15 years when you did the Maddie Cornrow challenge of pumping the price and keeping it at 25 cents? I mean, I think I'm doing you the favor here. So just don't forget who sent you, right? So we appreciate, I really appreciate all the love, all the comments, all the good times. You guys are keeping me honest with the cornrows, with YouTube easy clips, and all the things we're talking about. This is fun, you know. This is good stuff, and so that's what we're here for, is to improve your mental health, improve your physical health, keep you engaged in the community, help you get past and prepare for sudden wealth syndrome. Even those of you who are Hex millionaires now, are you ready to be a Hex billionaire? We talked about how much it cost for Richard to get into Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was free, 50 Bitcoin blocks, that would have been, what did we say? I don't know, like some not that long amount of 10-minute blocks, right? Like, it would have been what, $30,000 or $40,000 for him to buy in enough Bitcoin at $1 to become a billionaire, and it would have been less than $1 million for him to buy in with Bitcoin at $30 for him to become a billionaire. What about all those people who bought Bitcoin when it was a penny, when it was 10 cents? Their problem is they were not able to delay gratification because there were no tools or incentives set up for them at the time. People like Eric Wall and all of the other corrupt and or biased individuals in the crypto space, and we could list a lot of them because they have all the popular shows right now, they have their hand so deep in advertisers' pockets, and advertisers have their hands so far up their butts that it's really hard for them to understand reality. And that's the thing about reality and markets, is they don't always line up. But I think that at the end of the day, markets, because they are corrupt and because they have bad incentives, because they are a part of a bad and sick monetary system, that's a symptom, not a constant, right? Markets being irrational has literally, like, that idea, like somebody saying markets are irrational, people can't save for their future, kids chose to eat one marshmallow instead of waiting a little bit to have two, or cookies or whatever. Like, that's making a lot of assumptions, and that's giving people a lot of Nobel Prizes. But those Nobel Prizes, they're being awarded in economics to people who support modern monetary theory, to people who believe that the more money you print, that's a good thing, because you're incentivizing all of the people who have a lot of money to spend it, to use it or lose it, to create jobs. Well, guess what? That might have worked in the 1800s, your little trickled down economy. Well, now we live in a world where rich people can just buy robots and super geniuses and super computer AI shit, and they don't need other people. And so your whole damn economic model, it comes crashing down. And yet, let's really think about that. Because all the people on YouTube who've been telling you the market's going to crash for the last 10, 20, 50, 1,000 years, They were wrong too. And my theory for why people have so much trouble knowing the truth about markets, other than, right, the markets themselves are irrational because the money is irrational, because you can't keep printing more and more money and steal from everybody and have the system work out right. The reason markets are irrational is because of the bad actors involved and because of the corrupt politics, right? There are so many reasons. When people get popular on YouTube, they forget why they got popular, or they get a certain type of bias that creeps in. I'm going to call it YouTube bias, right? I'm going to call it wrecked moon, like shill corporation bias, where you got all these people giving you attention, paying you money no matter what you say. How do you know what you're saying is true if people are always going to like it, or else they can get out, right? I don't know. I would say if you're out there spamming the chat, I thank you for your contributions. I would say don't like search any terms that they put in there, because that could get you in trouble. I appreciate like all the cereal and stuff. I mean, don't search cereal gang, because that could be like a trap, because you click on a link and it fishes you. That's like the latest scam on YouTube here. I guess they got tired of taking clips of Vitalik and pretending that they're live and then getting people to send them all their ETH. And I know that we got people out there who are moderators who can deal with it, but Ben Bernanke, get out of my chat, you know, like stop talking about all your serial conspiracies. It is due to this popularity bias that it becomes easy for the renegade, truth-bringing, right, like speaker, right, the YouTuber who has good intentions. It's real easy for them to get sucked into the old system. I look at some of my favorite Bitcoin people, and then I throw up a little bit in my mouth because they've been bought and paid for, and they still believe the shit that they're saying about making the world a better place and about Bitcoin and Ethereum to the moon to $1 million, to click my fucking trading link, go on this leveraged exchange, right? It becomes a casino when you tell your audience the price is going to go up, and then the price goes up because you told your audience that, and then all of a sudden you're dumping on their heads, or I don't know, your advertisers are dumping on their heads, or like in order to get a new coin listed, you have to give them 10% of the supply or $1 million so they can dump it on people's heads who are hearing about it for the first time. That is a scam. Bitcoin didn't have that, but look, where do you have to go to buy Bitcoin? A bunch of centralized exchanges that take fees. It's one of the most profitable parts in finance, is selling people this narrative that Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to change their lives. When in reality, for Bitcoin to do a 100x and change your life a little bit, I mean, I want to say that it would have to go higher than like the market cap of a lot of things. But then again, I think Hex is proving that market cap is actually BS, and that really what matters is buying and holding. Because really, when I think about the Hex market cap, what I'm thinking is, yeah, but all your money is locked up. And that's what I look at when I see the Hex community. It's not narrative. It's truth. There is a truth engine in Hex that keeps you honest to yourself and to your community. If I wanted to dump on all your guys' heads, I'd have my little 2 or 3% bag that's liquid, and then I'd be paying all my just about all my principal, all my big payday interest. I'd be paying my whole stack in penalties for not keeping my word of being staked 10.6 years on average. That's a truth engine. And what are you going to do about it, right? Like, I don't see anybody in Bitcoin doing that. Now, I want to say, before I forget, hats off to Richard. Because whoever the OA is, whoever Richard is, right? Whoever is in charge of those bags, you just moved about 13 or $14 billion worth of Hex. You know what that tells me? You got your delayed gratification on point. Extremely deep game theory and understanding of Hex that allowed me to predict that the origin address or whatever, the grandchildren addresses of the origin address that went through the flesh address, like basically whoever got paid off of Hex getting created, you moved your coins and bought in a pulse. That tells me you are really good at delaying gratification and that you didn't time lock your money. What I know is that, this is the point I was trying to make, the percentage APY that we're getting right now is the perfect percentage APY based on game theory. 35% for 6 years locked. 35% per year. That's doubling your money, then doubling your money, then doubling your money with just interest. Because the rule of 72, that's a math thing. So the origin address or whatever, the original architect is not doing the altruistic thing in not staking more. Because if it staked more, it'd be taken away from its own ideal interest. If you run a simulation of if you controlled 90% of the supply of Hex, you would only stake probably about like 12% of it because you wouldn't want to push the APY against yourself. Because at some point, the higher your percentage staked, the lower your APY is going to be for the shares that you have. And so you're going to balance out the system for yourself, not just for the other users. What that is going to eventually do is it's going to cause, it's basically going to cause this high interest rate to continue for all the little guys. And you're going to be slowly diluting yourself, but you're also going to be paying yourself the maximum interest that you can get being a Poseidon in the system. So at the end of the day, though, it's incredibly impressive what Richard or the OA or whoever has been in Bitcoin since $1, since free 50 Bitcoin blocks that are now worth $2.2 million. You are an outstanding person if you didn't sell. And I think that's what we see with Richard's behavior, with his calls. I think maybe he sells tops and buys bottoms. I think that is probably true. I think that he is the master of delaying gratification. I think that he is an anomaly. He is doing the altruistic thing by not dumping Hex on the market. He does not have to. He's a billionaire in Bitcoin. He's a billionaire in Ethereum. He's probably a billionaire in Uniswap. Well, maybe not that. I don't know. Maybe only several, tens of millions. And he is a Poseidon deca billionaire, right? I was going to say multi-billionaire, but deca billionaire in Hex. And guess what? Pulse is going to have a lot of value too, I believe. So this is what happens when you solve the problems of money. When you make the money healthy. I mean, Richard has said he didn't even know all the positive mental health outcomes that would come from creating a better version of Bitcoin. And he likes it. And I like it. And I know a lot of other people who like it too. Time locking your money and sending money to your future self and getting mad gains in crypto That's how Bitcoiners or anybody who's coming from a sick monetary environment would be able to get and stay in a healthy monetary environment. Because it doesn't matter what you're feeling or what you're doing after you've had a moment of clarity. When you rig the system so that you will do well, and when Richard rigs the system so that you will do well, it's going to be really hard for people to understand that, because they're coming from a place where nobody ever did anything for them like that. Nobody gave away free money. Check the receipts. Uniswap, free money. 1inch.io, free money. Tornado.cash, free money. Some like shapeshift thing that I should probably look into. Yeah, it's an airdrop. Guess what? Pulse, world's biggest airdrop. Until people experience the reality of what I like to call altcoin altruism, they will be lost. But soon they will be found, because Pulse is coming for them. It's going to jam so much free money down their throats, they're not going to know what to do with it. And some of them will start to acknowledge the brilliance that is P-Hex, that is E-Hex, that is Richard Hart. And who knows? Maybe they'll get on board with Hex Therapy, with Quant Gang, with the Hex Conference. You know, maybe this idea of delaying gratification, maybe that'll catch on. Maybe that will go viral. What I know right now is we have something that's really good, not because it attracts good people, which it does, but it also makes people better themselves. And the it I'm talking about is you interacting with the Hex contract, and that has never been done before. There's never been something where you can mint your own mental health. Welcome to the future, y'all. We made it. And now it's our turn to help a lot of other people make it too. It's our time to make mental health go viral and to allow people to mint their own Maddies and Brissologies and Melftonies and everybody else in the chat to mint their own whales only, to mint their own mental health, right? And to find the community that they are willing to spend this time with, because there's only a certain amount of time we have on the earth. And there's only a certain amount of energy and problems we can solve. We can keep solving the same problems that don't have any answers. Like, how do we get ahead in life if it's a zero-sum game? How do we get ahead in life if people are always stealing from us through inflation? How do we get ahead in life if governments are incentivized to create war? With these power structures, with psychopaths rising to the top. Well, guess what? It's called decentralized finance. And there's only one kind. It's called Hex. We are at a unique point. And so I don't want us to get depressed because we know the truth. I don't want to get depressed because we're starting to open our eyes and realize how corrupt the world really is. Hex is proving that. It's not listed on centralized exchanges. I mean, maybe that's been to our advantage, sure. But it really tells you a lot about the centralized exchanges and about the other YouTubers who weren't even willing to try with $50. If you know so much about crypto, you have a crypto show, I think you could put $50 into something that you acknowledge has the strongest community on Twitter. The Hex community will flip the Bitcoin community before Hex flips the Bitcoin price, because there is a time delay factor, because there is an experiential factor to Hex, because until you experience the life-changing and mental health-changing and behavior-changing experience of sending money to your future self, you aren't going to get it as well as the people who have already got it. And looking at their behavior, it's going to seem weird. It's going to seem like a cult. It is going to seem too good to be true. All we are asking is that you go to tshare.app, that you use that tool to download MetaMask. It's going to find out if MetaMask is on your phone because it's a website. The website's going to say, is MetaMask on their phone? Oh, take them to the real MetaMask and don't scam them. If they have MetaMask on their phone, it's going to say, hey, here's the 3-point checklist. You get a little award on the screen every time you make sure you have enough ETH. Then you have enough ETH to do the stupid transaction fee, and then you swap it to Hex, all on Uniswap, right there. One website. It is so easy because we have a community of people who are willing to not take a fee. I don't take a fee from that. The dev, future us, you can follow on YouTube. You can follow on Twitter. T-Share app on all social media. We didn't need to take a fee because we got rich in Hex. We got rich in Hex because we trusted Richard, and then we experienced it for ourselves, and now we don't have to trust Richard anymore. All we have to do is trust that we can make ourselves better, and then the bags, they're going to show up for us when the time is right. We're going to have that staking ladder that pays us perpetual passive income as long as we keep rebuying our T-shares, which will run out over time. Because Hex is truly deflationary. Because what it's incentivizing you to do is to save for your future. The reason that is so hard to understand is because saving was not a rational behavior until now. Saving was not a rational behavior in a fiat system that lies to you. It was not a rational behavior. And so the fact that you have been gaslit your whole life, but you knew the truth, that's why you went into debt. That's why you spent every dollar you made and then some. It's because you knew that prices were going to go up. You knew that the government was going to waste the money that you gave them from taxes or didn't give them from taxes. You knew about all the people trying to scam you because they operate from scarcity. You already knew that. You just didn't say it because it was implied, because it wasn't framed in the right way, because there wasn't anything to compare it to a healthy monetary system. People are capable of coming to their senses in a sensible system, in a sensible monetary environment. So that's the experiment we're going to see. And what I'm saying is an empirical question. All you haters, you're probably not watching, but check it out. All you people who only believe a little bit, find out if you're right or wrong. Put your money where your mouth is, right? Tshare.app is designed to allow you to do a 5, 10, or 15-year stake with 500 hex. Actually, no. I checked that with the dev. You could take 5 hex and you could use Tshare.app. Now, that's not going to be fee. So the fees that the Ethereum network takes to maintain the security, it's not going to be cost efficient. It allows you to stake up to 500 hex. The reason we had to cap it is because so many OGs, maybe they would have 10,000 hex in their wallet. And we made it so easy for people to click a button and play a 15-second game to drop a claw and pick up a stuffed heart. And all of a sudden, you just set up yourself for a 5, 10, or 15-year stake. And you can swap right there into Hex from ETH. You could take $50 worth of ETH or $100 worth of ETH. You can swap it in to Hex. You can stake it right there. Just press the button. It pops up. So easy. We made it so easy that we didn't want OGs to act time like our money. No, you technical people out there saying, well, of course you could go to go.hex.com and cancel the pending stake. Or I think you could do it on go.tshare.app as well. Well, what if somebody did it right at the same moment as the rollover? We did not want to hurt anybody. We didn't want anybody whining and complaining. So we crafted it in a way so that new people, they can get what they need. Just a little taste of Hex. Just a little B share. Just get some B shares in your life, right? until people have experienced sending money to their future self, they aren't going to have the mental framework in order to compare the system that they're in that's unhealthy to the system that is superior, which it benefits their mental health by incentivizing saving for the future, sending money to your future self, and delaying gratification. If this had existed when Bitcoin was created, we would not be here, because there would be a whole different group of billionaires, and they would probably already be making the world an abundant and better place. Because that's what I see in the Hex community, is people giving and helping each other, whether it is for a small fee, whether it is for tips, whether it is to break even, or whether it is out of the kindness of their heart, or giving more than you're receiving. All those things are going to feel good when you create an opportunity to provide value for others. That is how you celebrate something being paid forward to you and paying something forward to the next people, and then realizing at the end of the day, you have more than you would have had. That's what we're talking about, a positive sum game. Because guess what? When I time lock 97% of my money, and then I take that little bit that I live off of, and then I take a portion of that and I invest it into this community and I give it away. I've given away T-shares. I gave away multiple T-shares on Twitter because I wanted to promote this idea of altcoin altruism, to promote this idea of, hey, what happens if I give somebody some liquid Hex? I wonder if they'll stake it if I ask them to, right? Or if I don't put any strings attached, what would they do? And maybe we'll do some shows about that. Maybe we'll bring some people on who Hexo rated, and I gave them some Hex and showed them how to time lock, and then we can see how they're doing right now, because there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been given away. I still have more Hex than ever. I still have more paper gains than ever. I still have more real gains than ever. That is the power of giving in a non-scarce environment, in an environment of abundance. And technology, it backs that up. Everybody looks at Hex and says, well, it can't be possible because it's too good to be true, right? You're not even analyzing this from the reference point that you're in a sick system where all the billions of dollars just goes to the few who, what are they going to do with it, right? Billions and billions and billions of dollars gets created out of thin air. Trillions of dollars gets created out of thin air and stolen. It gets spent to pay for the goods and services that we create. And we get paid bottom dollar to create those services. And at the end of the day, really the price of stuff just about stays the same. How's that possible? When there's exponential money printing and the price of stuff almost stays the same. Well, that's technology creating abundance. And if they weren't printing fiat dollars ad infinitum, that means into infinity, we would see the price of things drop so fast that we wouldn't believe it. You could get a cell phone, you could get you could get an iPhone for $10. You could get everything you need and more if the gains of humanity were not being stolen from you. I am not talking about socialism. I'm not talking about giving everything away for free. What I'm talking about is a new system that I am seeing because I have spent all my time and energy thinking about Hex, obsessing over it, talking to all you smart mofos out there for over 1.5 years now. and having the training that I've had in everything from Freudian psychology to behavior change, neuroscience, right? And then actually working with real people and being given the freedom to not like get burnt out by doing therapy, right? And like what I'm trying to say is that in the future, people will pay themselves and will be motivated to pursue their vision of making the world a better place without middlemen. Middlemen extract value. They steal abundance, and they make you think that you have to fight with the next person in order to decide who gets to be in power, and to have so many distractions that you don't even feel like fighting for freedom anymore. You don't even feel like being informed. You don't even feel like you could trust anybody. Do you know what the solution to not trusting anybody is? It's called crypto, and there's only one crypto, and it's called Hex. At the end of the day, it's hard for us to imagine a world where instead of being paid by others, we are paid by ourselves, because we take programmable money and we motivate ourselves. We say, Maddie wants to get even better abs. So Maddie is going to set a behavior change plan for himself, and he's going to use his Fitbit, or he's going to use like somebody that he trusts to hold the programmable token, right? That's going to be used to verify that his abs are getting like so much harder, right? Like his, you know, whatever his goal is, right? Maybe his goal is to make tshare.app better. Maybe his goal is to stream for a certain number of hours, right? Speaking of myself in the second person, third person, it's okay. I would be willing to pay myself by doing a behavior lock. We're already doing behavior locks that are in the subcategory of time locks. We are time locking our money to create the behavior change of saving for the future. If I time lock my Hex for 15 years, I can't get it back right away. And that changes my behavior in a way that I have consented to. Let's talk about paying our future selves to be productive. This idea that the world is going to fall apart if we can buy everything we need for $100 a month, and you can pay your rent and your utilities, and you can have healthy food to eat. This idea of scarcity is a lie, and it is the most profitable lie in this technological futuristic age that we live in. I mean, you know, change my mind. I'll wait. I'm just doing that for like a dramatic thing. I'm not trying not to get distracted by the comments, although I know all of you are in the comments supporting each other, saying positive things, running distraction robots that will tell YouTube to bring lots of new people to the stream, because obviously it's you know, people are saying rude things 100 times with the robot, and that's their way to help like pump the stream and get more new people in. We appreciate everybody, and the price of Hex is pumping right now, so that it's a good thing. It's a good thing, right? It's really validating to see people believing in something so much. It is so foreign to people because they're coming. We're not going to blame people on this show for them not understanding Hex. We are not going to blame people for their bad behavior. That does not mean that we are not going to hold them accountable. It does not mean that we are not going to speak the truth. It means that we are going to stop wasting energy telling people that they are bad. It's not them, it's their environment. And boom, all of a sudden they're going to have the mental space, I hope, to become better versions of themselves. To sample doing the right thing. What's doing the right thing? It's hitting the like and subscribe button. It's supporting other Hex streamers. It's getting your pulsehex.com ticket early so I don't have to stress, which I'm not. I'm not stressing about the tickets. I'm just out here like, just freestyling. There's so many ways you can support others that I know you're all already doing, you're already thinking of. That's why there's such a cognitive disconnect between everybody in crypto and people in Hex, between everybody on Twitter and people in Hex, right? We're famous. We are infamous. And people don't get it, and it's not their fault. And we're going to hold them accountable, right? We are not going to blame others for the mistakes of their environment. So what does that look like, right? There's a principle of psychology called DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. What DBT says, I think, can be applied here. DBT says that everybody is doing their best, even when their best is not good enough. It gives us the framework, and I'll say that a few times so it really sinks in. It gives us the framework to not blame the individual that we want to change, because blaming them takes their energy away. Because blaming yourself takes your energy away from changing the behavior. There are two things in reality, the reality of behavior change, that are opposites: acceptance and change. If you accept your behavior, it means you're not motivated to change. And if you change your behavior, it means you do not accept it. But if we frame the idea of evaluating our behavior based on, I am always doing my best, even when my best is not good enough, I can stop blaming myself long enough to put energy into getting the skills that I need, right? What do those skills look like? It looks like, esteeming yourself. Esteeming yourself, that's an action verb. That means to speak highly of yourself, to compliment yourself, right? To say nice things. This is such a powerful thing in a world where the stress of our monetary environment, the sickness of our monetary environment, it invades our mental health. It causes us to be shitty to the next guy. You think the unspeakable illness is contagious? I'll tell you what else is contagious is bad moods. Moods are contagious. And that's one of the reasons why people are attracted to people with high energy, people who are in a good mood. Good moods and bad moods are contagious, right? And so that's part of our struggle, right? When we're wanting to change the world and make it a better place, to give people the power to mint their own wellness instead of like forcing it on them with like some centralized thing that isn't going to work, right? Motivating people to mint their own mental health, that's where it's at, because each individual, they're going to be able to do what's right for them. And the overwhelming majority of people will do what's right for them when given the right environment. When we stop blaming ourselves and others, we remove one of the biggest barriers to behavior change. This gives people the possibility and the mental space to try something new and to get the skills that they need. Those skills could be esteeming yourself. It could be getting your protein right. It could be taking your omega-3. It could be something really simple. It could be tuning into this stream from time to time. It could be building your community, hitting your like button. It could be saving for your future. Even if it's in fiat, put $10, shove it in your sock and tell yourself why you're doing it. Tell yourself that you're saving for your future because you are worth it. That is something, it takes practice. I find that the more beat down somebody is, the more times they have to say that they are worthy of treating themselves well. We live in such a sick world that can be healthy now that we have programmable money to port mental health into the minds of everybody, to give people the tools that they really need to beat the centralized actors. The game has changed, and I have a lot of hope for the future. I really want to thank everybody who is giving me positive vibes from the chat, right? Because I'm looking over, I'm seeing you guys really encouraging me, cheering me on. And I think that's what's giving me this type of like energy to where I can speak my mind, I can hit these points. And I think what you're going to find, especially if you've been following me for quite some time, I think you're going to find that people get better over time who are involved with Hex, who are getting their mental health right, getting their physical health right, who are in the right environment and having the right tools to better themselves, right? And that is going to be a compound effect. It's going to be something that becomes contagious. When mental health is more contagious than COVID, look out. Look out. Because you think the price of things being able to go down if there wasn't trillions being printed, if you're impressed by that, wait until you see what happens in a healthy monetary environment. We would be light years ahead. We would have all, I don't know. I don't want to exaggerate. It's really hard to communicate an exponential trend, especially such a positive one. It is hard for me to communicate how much hope that I have for humanity because of Hex and because of this community and because of my own experience being privileged enough to learn the skills that now YouTube is letting me broadcast all around the world. And that many of you have started to share an experience in your own lives. It is worth, it's worth all the Hex in the world to see people learning how to improve their mental health themselves by taking omega-3, themselves by doing self-esteem exercises. Set a reminder on your phone. Hey Siri, remind me to give myself a compliment once every day. What that's going to do when you fall into that repetition of self-esteem and self-care, when you practice that action verb, it's going to cause you to think differently. It's going to cause you to behave differently. It's going to cause your deepest beliefs to be changed. That is going to put you in the right type of mental environment to see more clearly and to affect more change, to help others more, to feel even better about yourself. It's kind of an iterative system. It's compounding the change that people can make in today's world. And so I can't stress enough how lucky we are to live in this moment in time when all of our problems could be at least worked on by billions of people. It's my understanding that there have been about 10 billion people to have ever walked the earth, plus the 8 billion people that are alive now. Our population explosion, it's like stopped in the 70s or 80s. And like now, we're at a pivotal point where, wow, we literally advanced our society so much that we could support, keep alive 8 billion people. Now our goal should be higher. Our goal should be to not only have 8 billion people alive, why not have 8 billion people who are mentally healthy, who are physically healthy, and who are benefiting from the abundance that's created through our advanced society, through our technology, right? Because there are no limits in a world of abundance. The limits are simply how much we hold on to the old narratives and how much we can see the future. When you put $50 and stake it into Hex, you will have 1 foot in the future, and you will have 1 foot in the present. And that is a really, really cool place to be, because we're all sitting here apparently getting paid by our past selves and being incentivized to save even more for our future. With that being said, I want to shout out to everybody saying all the positive things in the comments. I know that I looked over in the comments, and one of my favorite Hex streamers, I know I've got a lot, it's probably all of them, but I saw, I saw that Molly the Investor said that they switched their show to Wednesday nights. And I know I saw it yesterday and I was like, is this a replay? Is this the real thing? So I guess Crypto Nights of the Roundtable is not streaming on Thursdays at the moment. I guess it's going to be Hex Therapy, and looks like Discourse Syndicate is doing some charting and whatnot. If you go to hexstreamers.com, you'll be able to see everybody who's streaming at any given moment. I am honored to be a part of your community. I'm honored to be here with you on this amazing magic carpet ride that seems too good to be true, and it's only going to keep getting better. I am honored to be able to brainstorm and to promote the tools that we can use to make our experience as a community different than any community that came before us, to operate on the principles of abundance, to not sell out to middlemen, to be anti-corruption, to experiment, to make mistakes, and to pay forward and to onboard others into this world of financial freedom that goes beyond the words, that causes people to cry like little babies. I know I do whenever I see people out there buying new cars for their parents, paying off their parents' debt, paying off their own student debt, like using their money to advance like aging research, to solve the medical problems of all humanity. Like the future, it's here already. And we're lucky enough to be on the edge of it. And so I hope that this stream, I hope that you're able to share it, to like it. I hope that you're able to get something out of it as a preview of the future. Because what I'm predicting is the world that I really think can exist and is starting to exist now. We are just getting to the point where people can have thoughts like without ulterior motives. This is the first point in history of altcoin altruism, of billionaires being incentivized to pursue glory alone instead of, trying to foil their own riches or, dump on their own crowd. So if you go to mattyall.in, it will take you to all my links, which is just allmylinks.com/allin. So there you'll be able to find the link to like buy a conference ticket, to check out Hex Therapy and know when it's going to be live, to see all the past episodes on a playlist, check out QuantGang, tshare.app, and all of the other tools that I like to promote here. Thank you all for the super chats. I know I haven't been highlighting them, but know that I see them, I appreciate them, and you guys mean a lot to me. Thank you to Hex19. Thank you to Graphene Hex. I know that somebody dropped a $20 super chat earlier that I appreciate, and even before that, people have been dropping super chats. So thank you so much. Go to allmylinks.com/allin and What do you think I'm going to say? As always, my friends, stake wisely and take your Omega 369. Peace out. I'll see you guys Tuesday, Quant Gang, Thursday, Hex Therapy. Not this Saturday, but next therapy, another pulsehex.com conference planning session on Saturday. And we'll do some pop-up shows. I might start doing some shorter live sessions. A lot more to come. Peace.